other processes. So let me use an example again. So let's say I make a particular biscuit from Ghana made out of cassava. The main ingredient is cassava, but within the biscuit I have some milk products, and within the biscuit I have some sugar. And assuming the sugar and the milk are not from Ghana, but having added these three, I've transformed cassava starch or whatever into tasty biscuits called Tasty Biscuits by Dodi. Then we can say that could be called a substantially transformed product. However, to determine the origin, you need these three sub-criteria, if you can see that on my screen. So the first one from my left is the change in tariff heading, and I think I mentioned the headings of the HS. So if the ingredients that came into making the product are of a different HS classification to the final product, then we can say that there is a change in tariff heading. The second one, which is the criterion on value added. Here, the criteria will determine whether the inputs of which make the product, what is the relative percentages when it comes to originating from Ghana, and what's the percentage that is not originating from Ghana. So assuming the biscuit I spoke about, the milk and the sugar are from other countries other than Ghana, and they constitute about 60% of that product, then the AfCFTA rules would have to be used clearly to determine whether the biscuit is from Ghana or not. And here we compare the value of originating materials from the value of non-originating materials. Generally, the rule is 60-40. So 60% non-originating material will qualify as AfCFTA. I said generally, please. Let me put a caveat there. Generally, there are specific rules, so we'll have to look in the Appendix 4 of the Annex 2 to determine that. The percentage of value added domestically and value added percentage of non-originating material, 60-40. So at least 40% value added domestically, and at least or at most 60%. Let me clarify. At most 40% domestically added, at least 60% non-originating material. And then the final process is what we call specific processing. So just as an example, the change in tariff heading is a particular criteria that is used for products mostly in the pharmaceuticals, the cosmetics. The value added is also used in similar products. And then the specific processing, normally this is where the criteria specifies what process of transformation should have been used, and it's often for things like minerals or chemical products, so chemical reactions are expected. So this is just a quick overview of the rules of origin. So how do you get a certificate of origin? Now, let me make a caveat. The rules of origin, like I said, this is a generic one. You have to submit your product information to the respective national AfCFTA rules of origin committee for approval. So it is not determined by you as a business. It's not determined by even me presenting today. It's determined by, in the case of Ghana, the rules of origin national competent authority, which is customs. Now, how do you get your certificate of origin, which is what attests that your product meets the origin requirement? You have to submit your information through the ICUMS, which is the Integrated Customs Management System, for approval. And you can also do it manually through the offices of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce. So the approvals committee for the certificate of origin is comprised of Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and then the Customs Authority, GRA Customs. So these three comprise the rules of origin approval committee. Now, when you submit your application for certificate of origin, which is a process you do way before you export. You do this way before. You don't do it when you have your product to export. You do it before you export. So you would go to, like I said, submit the application. If you go on the ICOMS website, there is a form you can fill manually. If you go on the ICOMS as well platform, you can submit it electronically. And the Rules of Origin Committee would conduct a visit to your factory or your processing site to determine if your goods meet the AfCFTA Rules of Origin requirements. So this is a process that you must submit your business to after having provided, for example, information about your raw material source, where you get your packaging from, and things like that. A visit will be done to do an assessment. And that visit, if the information observed plus the information supplied by you are acceptable, then your product will become AfCFTA eligible. And when it becomes AfCFTA eligible, then you would be issued with a certificate of origin at the time of export. So your products can become AfCFTA eligible. So let's say I've opened a factory, I want to export chocolates, I've done my application, my products are AfCFTA eligible. I would not get a certificate of origin at that time. I would only get a certificate of origin when I have packages of products I'm exporting today under the AfCFTA. Then I can apply through the ICOMS for my certificate of origin. So this is an approval process that just determines that your product is eligible for AfCFTA export. So this is the process. I think I've taken you through that already: the factory visit, the origin determination, and then the issuance of the certificate of origin. Now,
hi, Jenny. I just thought it'd be good. There was a question in the chat which might be a bit relevant. Someone was asking how they know their project is eligible in the receiving country.
Good. So your product eligibility, thank you, Eloise, is what I'm answering now. Your product eligibility is based on two things. Number one, if your product is AfCFTA made in Ghana or made in Africa. And I think I forgot to mention that. One of the benefits of the AfCFTA is, in the rules of origin, is the principle of cumulation. The principle of cumulation. The principle of cumulation allows that eligible raw materials and intermediate products from other African countries can be finally processed in an AfCFTA state party for export. What do I mean? So let's talk about my biscuit example. My raw material is cassava, which I have is cultivated in Ghana or Togo, for example. So I buy it from Togo, bringing it to Ghana for processing. I need milk, so I go to Kenya to buy my milk products. I need sugar, I go to Malawi and buy sugar from Malawi. And I bring all of these inputs into Ghana to do my final biscuits. As long as Kenya is an AfCFTA party, as long as Malawi is an AfCFTA party, and as long as Togo is an AfCFTA party, which in this case the three of them are, and as long as Ghana is an AfCFTA party, I can do the final biscuits in Ghana and export them into the AfCFTA market. So that is one of the benefits of the AfCFTA. And I want to use this opportunity to encourage African businesses to look for raw materials on the continent. There is so much we export or import, from other parts of the world that is available within the continent. Tea, coffee, share products, it's all here. Let's import from Africa. Now, the second thing, after you have done your AfCFTA registration as an exporter and your products are eligible for export under the AfCFTA, is to determine if your product is eligible for preferential rate under the AfCFTA. Now, if you look on this slide, you would see that I have 3 bullets that must be of importance to you. Number 1 is that the AfCFTA allows state parties to open up at least 97% of their product lines for AfCFTA import or export. What do I mean? So every country has between 5,700 to 6,400 tariff lines, products that they import and export. The AfCFTA, by joining or by ratifying, you are saying that, okay, I am going to allow about 5,400 of the products imported into my country to come in at a reduced duty. At a reduced duty. We call those products category A or liberalized products. Okay, so those are the products that the country is reducing duties on. The next group of products is the 7% of products which are called category B, which are sensitive products. And here, countries determine what is a sensitive product. So a product could be sensitive because it could be from a nascent industry. It could be a product in which they are not interested in liberalizing trade on immediately. That is it has employment benefits. That is that. The next group of product, which is 3% of the tariff lines, is what we call category C, which is excluded or the exclusion list. These are products the country has not decided to open up for AfCFTA trade. So usually, if you look at the Appendix 4, if you look at the tariff schedules of countries that have submitted their tariff offers, you will notice that the category A products, the tariffs are on a straight line reduction. They are going from whatever the tariff is to 0. You know, we started tariff reduction in 2021. So assuming the product I'm exporting would meet a tariff of 10%, it means that every year the country may be reducing the duties at least 1%. And by now, it should be about 5% tariff for me to export into that country. Now, for the excluded list, countries are going to be able to reduce their tariffs, after 6 years. So from next year, they should start reducing the tariffs on those products. But for the excluded list, many countries are not reducing the tariffs on those products. So I can just use an illustration. So let's say, for example, bottled water. Okay, a country could put bottled water if they have self-sufficient in bottled water production and they think that they don't need to allow imports of bottled water, they will put that in their excluded list. However, they will not say that it's banned from imports. You just meet a higher tariff. So I really recommend that if you are exporting under the AfCFTA, you look at the products in the importing country, the country you are targeting, to say, okay, if I'm exporting share-based products into, let's say, Tanzania, then share-based products must be in the 90%, because it is only in that 90% that I could have a preferential treatment of my goods in terms of tariff reduction. However, if it's in the category B or C, then I'm likely to meet a very high tariff. So take note of that. I don't know if Eloise have answered the question that was posed in the chat box.